Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow your eyelids to close. And as they close, allow the speed of your breathing to slow down. Breathing in a resourceful feeling of relaxation and allowing tension to leave your body in a slow, long, deep breath. As you breathe in and breathe out, become aware of any clues of tension, stress, or anxiety in your body. That may be a muscle that's tense that doesn't need to be tense. Your body in a position that it doesn't need to be in that position. A feeling of heaviness or tightness that doesn't need to be there. And as you breathe in and breathe out, just adjust your body in ways to facilitate releasing of tension. Quite often, tension can exist in the muscles around the eyelids, the eyes, the neck and the shoulders, the forehead. Echoes of anxiety can be there in the gut, the chest. And as you breathe in and breathe out, allow it to be released. I want you to imagine, as you breathe in and breathe out, that the feeling of resourcefulness has a color, a warm color. As you imagine breathing in that warm color, imagine that it melts away any feelings of tension, stress, and that the melted stress and tension then gets to leave your body in your outward breath, enabling you to go deeper and deeper relaxed. I want you to create an image in your mind of a helium balloon. Maybe you can imagine a child holding on to this helium balloon. I want you to imagine the size of that helium balloon, the color of that helium balloon, but most importantly, the movement it makes. As you see the balloon attached to a piece of string, perhaps even attached to the hand of a child. And as you breathe in that resourceful feeling of relaxation, I want you to imagine what your head would feel like if it took on the qualities of that helium balloon. That it required no tension to keep your head upwards. That your head was just floating and your neck was almost like that piece of string. Feel the lightness, the flow, the fluidity of how it feels to have this light, weightless feeling, your head on your shoulders, which enables you to breathe even deeper in and even deeper out, and allow that feeling of fluidity to flow to every cell in your body. As you release the tension in your neck and your shoulders, your arms and legs can feel like the limbs of a puppet with no strings. That's it, just deeper and deeper relaxed. And I want you to use the power of your imagination to create an image of a yoga studio. Imagine the material, the texture of the floor, the walls, the glass, the smell perhaps still in the air. But I want you to imagine this room is empty, a safe, private place just for you. I want you to imagine that you are in that room in a posture that facilitates deep feelings of relaxation. The kind of feelings of relaxation that enable you to truly let go now. And as you let go, I want you to connect not with your external environment, but with your intuition. And what is your intuition? If it isn't the ability for your unconscious to communicate with your conscious. And sometimes your unconscious communicates with inner dialogue, telling you what you should or shouldn't do, if you've been good or bad, what you must do, what you need to do. And sometimes your intuition communicates through an image of the past or an image of the future. Sometimes it's a still two-dimensional image like a photo, and sometimes like a movie, and sometimes like a virtual reality, like you're living that moment again or a moment in the future. And sometimes your intuition gives you a feeling, a sensation of something that's aligned with you or not aligned with you. And I want you to imagine here in this place, you're able to harness the incredible power of every experience you've ever encountered. What if every good choice that you've made gives you an idea of what works? And what if every mistake you've made creates a feeling of wisdom and experience? I want you to get a sense that there is gold in your past, the treasure of a real life experience. Times that you did things that really aligned with yourself, and times when it really didn't. And even the times where you tried to force your body into doing things that it didn't want. You're wiser because of those moments. There is experience in that resistance, that struggle. And I wonder how powerful it would be to harness all of the moments from the past, and this time to have them work for you rather than against you. And if your unconscious is willing to let your past help you achieve a desirable future, let me know by nodding your head. And I wonder what that future looks like. I want you to imagine a future where you see yourself like you're someone else, perhaps just 6 or 12 months in the future. But I want you to imagine a version of you that changed your body shape, changed your relationship with food, not by force, not by control, not by struggle and coercion. I want you to see a future version of yourself that did it with harmony, collaboration, working with yourself, with your body, listening to your needs, being flexible when you need to be flexible, giving yourself permission to not be perfect, but to still make progress nonetheless. And I want you to imagine seeing that future version of yourself at a particular weight, at a particular shape. But I want you to see a version of you that got there, working with yourself, not against yourself. And if you can see that future version of you wearing the clothes you'd want to wear, at the body shape you'd want to be, but more importantly, in the emotional state that you'd want to be, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to imagine that you're traveling into the future where you're going to have a conversation with your future self, a future version of you that lost the weight, but more importantly, did it in harmony and alignment. You know your body better than anyone. And I want you to imagine you're in a nice, safe place where you're sharing a moment, a conversation with a future version of you that has already lost the weight that you want to lose. Knowing that this version of you did it in a way that was not forcing their body to jump through hoops and to feel a feeling of deprivation and loss. This is a version of you that lost weight and felt empowered, aligned, connected. And I want you to imagine asking yourself, what were the most important things that you did differently? I want you to see that slimmer, healthy, happy version of you telling you. The version of you that's already lost weight, the future version of you. And notice how freely the words flow. Even the way they explain what they did makes it seem easy and effortless. And maybe there were certain boundaries, guidelines, choices that felt desirable to make. Sometimes too much control is out of control. And sometimes harsh rules provoke a rebellious response. Sometimes those things you're not allowed and you can't have become the most desirable. But this version of you lost weight in harmony. And I want you to hear from them, that future version of you that has already lost the weight. What strategy actually worked? How did they recover? If they felt that they didn't have the best day, notice how much trust there is, forgiveness there is, that there is a culture not of perfectionism and shame and guilt and messing up and doing wrong, but a real sense of alignment. And perhaps that future version of you remembered a time that they learned to eat smaller portions and to make excellent choices within those smaller portions. Maybe back then there was a reason why there were smaller portions, but I want you to imagine that this future version of you followed a winning strategy through choice, not limitation. And in doing so, felt empowered rather than restricted. Felt free rather than limited. The opposite of coercion is choice. And perhaps this future version of you that has already lost the weight felt they had lots of choices they can make within certain boundaries that aligned with their body, to know they would give their body what the body needed by listening to the body. And if you feel that this future version of you was able to lose the weight in alignment with their body through making choices, through listening to the intuition, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to get a sense that there was a time in your life that you used to believe that food makes you feel better. And I want you to imagine somewhere nearby is a plate of rotting food. Maybe it's got a smell to it. Maybe it's got some kind of discolorization. Maybe it's got other things connected to it that give you an idea that this is rotting in some way. And I want you to imagine how in the world would eating this rotting food make you feel better? And if you agree that food doesn't make you feel better, let me know by nodding your head. Instead, choosing what you eat and choosing to eat foods that align with your body really do make you feel better. Because whenever you choose foods that taste good in the moment, but help facilitate this journey to this future version of yourself, you get to feel twice as good. You get to enjoy the food, and you also get to enjoy where the food is taking you. I want you to imagine that good choices of food are a vehicle towards a desirable destination. You know that there are certain food choices you can make that would take you to the destination of ill health, of gaining weight, of feeling sick, of feeling with low energy. And if that's true, there must be also choices of food that make you feel great, make you feel proud, that give your body what it needs and takes you in a journey, a destination towards the ideal body shape for you. If you're willing to let go of the belief that food makes me feel better and change that with the belief that great choices make you feel better, let me know by nodding your head. And just feel that you're updating that belief system in your mind, letting go of the ludicrous idea that food makes you feel better, and realizing that personal choices that could involve food really do make you feel better. And the better the choices, the better you'll feel. And I want you to get a sense that urges are temporary. All urges. I want you to try and recall a time where an urge lasted a week, or a month, or a year, and realize that all urges are temporary. Some will last a few seconds, some will last a few minutes, but no urge lasts for very long. And therefore, isn't it possible to just ride a wave of an urge until the urge disappears? I want you to imagine sitting in front of the future version of you that has already successfully lost the weight, but doing so in a way that aligned with their body. And I want you to ask them, your future self, what they did to not resist urges, but accept urges. And maybe they met an urge with just drinking a glass of water. Maybe they met an urge with just waiting a few minutes until the urge passed. Maybe they met an urge by giving themselves some food that is really delicious for them, but is something entirely different. Or maybe it was something else, and I want you to listen to the future version of you telling you in the present the best way of dealing with an urge. And when you feel that you've got an answer that makes sense, that is aligned with your body, that isn't based on coercion and control, but is giving your body what it needs, but also helping you move towards this future version of you, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. I want you to realize that you've never been this wise ever before, because you've never been this experienced ever before. Therefore, right now you're in a unique position to start a new chapter in the book of your life. The chapter where you steer your life in the direction you want to take it, but knowing everything that you've learned on the way. And if you're ready to start that new chapter, to finally lose weight in a way that acts in harmony with your body, knowing that you don't need to be perfect and you never have done. You just need to listen to your body, listen to your emotions, to trust yourself enough to know that you can learn from the past and always have the ability to make even better choices in the future based on an evaluation of how you feel in the present. And if you're ready to start that new chapter in a confident, empowered, positive way, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to imagine leaving that future version of you, finding yourself there in that yoga studio, but feeling like something has changed, that this feels like a new chapter, like a fresh start. You get to benefit from all the knowledge of the past, but you get to do it in a way that aligns with your body and who you are. And I want you to imagine feeling like you're returning back to the present, listening to my voice, and having a sense of real optimism. You know how much food your body really needs. If it needed it at a time when it needed even more, then it means that you need less than you think you need. But if you eat less, doesn't it make sense to have better quality and more enjoyment from the food that you eat? I want you to get a sense that less is more, and you feel aligned with the choices that you're making, and because you're choosing them, it makes it feel even better. Returning to the present as you take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're back in the present, listening to my voice, all parts here in this moment. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, you will awaken feeling optimistic, resourceful, and aligned, feeling like the choices you make will steer you in the direction of your future. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.